I'm not ashamed to own my Lord, nor to defend his cause. Maintain the honors of his word, the glory of his cross.
Hello, I'm James Brown, and on behalf of the Eastern Church of Christ located in Toronto, Canada, I'd like to welcome you to Tuesday's edition of Walking Through the Bible, a podcast where we seek to study the Bible and the Bible alone. Please stick around afterwards for information on how you can contact us. But for now, if you have a Bible with you, please turn to the book of Genesis, and we'll turn you over to Jeremy Dieselkamp for our study of the day.
Thank you, James, and welcome to all of our viewers. This is the 55th lesson in our study of Genesis. Yesterday we covered Genesis chapter 16, verses 7 to 16, discussing Hagar's instructions by God to return to Sarai, give birth to her son, and call him Ishmael. If you missed that episode and would like to watch it, you can find it and all of our other podcasts on our website at www.eastendchurch.org. You can also find them on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/EastEndChurchOfChrist under the Walking Through the Bible Genesis playlist. Today we're going to begin with Genesis chapter 17, verse 1, and read through verse 8. The text that you'll see on the screen is from the English Standard Version, but you're welcome to follow along with any version that you have. So let's now read Genesis 17, beginning at verse 1. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless, that I may make my covenant between me and you, and may multiply you greatly. Then Abram fell on his face, and God said, Behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you, and your offspring after you, throughout their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and to your offspring after you. And I will give to you and to your offspring after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. In this chapter, we find Abram is 99 years old, 13 years older than we find him at the end of chapter 16, and about 14 years older than he was at the end of chapter 15, the last time we have recorded that God appeared to Abram. This is the third time God reiterates his covenant between him and Abram. The first was in chapter 12, when God told Abram to get from his country and to go to the land that God would show him. Abram believed and followed God. The second time was in chapter 15, when God further explained his covenant to Abram in a dream. Abram believed God then as well by obeying the Lord's commandments. Yet for these 14 years it had yet to be fulfilled. Over that time, Abram's faith had a chance to grow, which it almost certainly did. Abram had been promised to live to a good old age, and while we would consider 99 to be a good old age today, such was not the case then. Dying at 99 would have been a little young. With Abram still not reaching that good old age, it left God time to fulfill his promise. And that's what we have going on here in chapter 17. God revealing to Abram that he was about to execute his covenant that he made. He is referred to here as God Almighty, meaning the all-powerful God, a God who is able to do what he says. He commanded Abram to walk before him blameless, meaning that Abram was to walk before him and no other God. It didn't mean Abram was expected not to sin from here on out, for we know that he will, but that he was to walk in faith, never doubting God or his promises. The reason Abram was to walk before God blameless was so God would execute his covenant. Faith in God by Abram was found when God further established his covenant in chapter 15, and continued faith by Abram was required for the maintenance and confirmation of this covenant. Abram fell on his face here, a sign of respect, reverence, and worship of God. Abram had faith in God in this chapter, and as such, God showed Abram how he would execute his covenant. He again promised that Abram would be the father of many nations. In fact, kings would come from him. This meant that Abraham would have more children, specifically the child of promise. As a result of this being true, God changed Abram's name to Abraham. God said he would establish or execute his covenant not only with Abraham, but with his seed after him as an everlasting covenant. Now this didn't necessarily mean that this covenant would be forever, for it is always contingent on faith and obedience, Deuteronomy 28, verse 9. God again promised to give the land that Abraham was living in to his descendants, and that he would be their God. God would further explain his covenant as we continue on in this chapter, but for now our time is up for today. Please join us, the Lord willing, tomorrow when we will continue our study of Genesis, beginning with Genesis 17, verse 9.
Thank you, Jeremy. And to our viewers, we also thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Should you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment below or email us at answerintheword@gmail.com. We'll try to respond to you as quickly as we can. We hope you'll join us, the Lord willing, tomorrow when we'll be continuing our study of the book of Genesis. Goodbye for now and have a great day.
I'm not ashamed to own my Lord.